And we're live. What's up? How are you?
What's up, Joe?
Dude, you're on a roller coaster ride. What is it like to be the champ? What's the feeling like? This is fresh for you.
Oh, well, first of all, I just want to say, man, it's such an honor to be here.
The honor's mine.
I'm gonna be honest. My thing is I'm just gonna be like 100% totally transparent. I never really watched the show. I never really kind of heard of the show. Of course, I heard of you and all the things you do. I'm like, oh yeah, it's Fear Factor guy, you know. But I never really heard of the show until like after like a fight or two in the UFC, and people are like tagging me and shit, like, yo, Joe Rogan's talking about you. Joe Rogan talked about you on podcast. I'm like, fucking podcast? Because I never listened to podcasts at the time. I was like, what are you talking about? Till I finally started listening. I'm like, oh, this dude is for real. This dude got some pull. He got some people watching this shit. Random people would tag me. Oh, Joe was talking about you today on the podcast. I'm like, oh man, this guy's for real. And then every time after that I see you, I'm like, what's up, Joe?
Yeah, we've been talking about you for a long time, man. We were just with your friend out there. We were watching a video of us talking about you back when you were ranked number 12th. And I was saying, I think you could fight for the title right now.
Yeah, man. And I like to attest it to. I think because I went back once I started kind of researching you. I like to go back and do a little research, and I'm like, fucking Joe's been with this sport for the beginning. Like, you were in the back with hair.
97. Yeah.
With hair, freaking interviewing the guys that were during the tournament that were fighting multiple fights a night, and you were interviewing those guys. And I was like, damn, even back then, Joe had skills. Joe was a beast at interviewing these guys. There was no shaking behind it, because one thing about me, I've gotten into commentating and things like that now, and I'm like, dang, Joe, he didn't seem nervous. You were just like a freaking natural at it. And the sport was just growing at that time. I was like, damn,
there was
Joe's
nobody watching back then. It wasn't as much pressure. You know, it wasn't like coming into it today.
Yeah.
ESPN, pay-per-view, all that deal. It would be a lot of pressure. But back then, it was just fun. I mean,
yeah.
It was weird, man. The first one I did was in Dothan, Alabama, in this weird, like, I don't know if it was a high school gym or something, some small auditorium, tiny little place. It was very weird.
Yeah, but you made it look like a freaking certain little walk in the park. I mean, I was like, damn, Joe's good at that. Joe's been doing this shit for a while.
Well, it's an interesting thing to see, to see it progress from 1997 to where it's at 2019. The biggest difference is not just the amount of eyes that it gets and the amount of people that are paying attention to. The real difference is the level of athlete. It's a giant leap, like in no other sport. I don't think there's another sport from 1993 to 2019 where the athletes are almost unrecognizable how much better the fighters are.
Absolutely. It's now, back in the day, it was like, okay, you finished your college career, you finished all this, you've got to the height of whatever, sport you could be. Let's start fighting. And so guys were coming in at 28, 27, starting to learn the tricks. Now you got freaking 10-year-old kids sparring.
Yeah.
There's all these crazy videos of like little bitty kids fighting in like Russia or other places. Like, they're full on MMA fighting now.
Yeah, it's a totally different world.
Yeah, whole promotion. I'm like, man, by the time these guys get to 16, 17, they're going to be killers.
Yeah, but if you go back and watch like a boxing match from like 93, a world champion boxer like Marvin Hagler, perfect example. Marvin Hagler from the 80s could absolutely hang with middleweights. Like, he would fit right in with world champions today.
Absolutely.
But a UFC champ from 93, I mean, God, it's just not the same. It's not by any stretch. It is such a, back then it was wild, it was crazy, but nobody had endurance, and there was a few guys that had some skill in certain, like Orlando Veep or Hoist Gracie. There was guys that were really good at their individual arts, but there was no real complete fighters yet.
Yeah, you got the transition because everyone came in with their special skills, and that was a big thing. I think UFC even sold that as, oh yeah, you got the wrestler fighting the combo, the sambo guy and the jiu-jitsu guy, and so that was the thing. Everyone came in with their one skill, and they put it to the test to see which skill was better. It's freaking crazy, Joe. My first time I ever watched a UFC fight, I was visiting John Jones in college, freshman year. This was our freshman year, true freshman year. I was visiting him because I went to a small school, William Penn University, which was about 2 hours away from him. He was at Iowa Central in Fort Dodge, Iowa. So I went to go spend my fall break a whole week with him, just hanging out, because we had met the previous year in high school, and just, you know, it's two brothers in wrestling. It was like, hey, two brothers, what's up, man? Where you going to school next year? It's like, I'm be Iowa. I was like, yo, me too. And so we kept in touch, and I went up to hang out with him, and during that week, there was a fight on. Someone, like a friend of the team, something like that, invited us to come to his house and watch it. And we went over there to watch the fights. I had never really heard of it. I never really cared. I was just a freshman, just trying to hang out with John and party.
What year was this around?
This was 2005.
2005.
I think, yeah, 2005.
So it was like first season of The Ultimate Fighter.
Yeah, 2005. So we go, I think it might have been Randy Couture or someone. John just reminded me, but I forgot who was fighting. And we went to the house party and watched it. I really didn't really remember the fight, because I didn't really care. I never paid attention to it. I never thought I would ever do something like that. So I just watched it, and then I remember the guy saying, hey, man, you guys can do this. Why don't you guys try this? And I was like, me and John kind of looked at each other like, hell no, ain't no way we going to do that shit. You know, wrestling is controlled. You know, there's rules. You know, certain things you can or can't do. There's no way we're doing that. So we kind of laughed it off and left that day. Never knew that freaking years later I'd be doing it.